I know there are some young members and friends of the community, especially the Hong Kong IUD, the Hong Kong Institute of Urban Design is a young institute. So I would like to take this opportunity to have a quick introduction of this young institute before sharing some highlights from our very first physical activities of the year 2021. So on this slide, you can see that our institute was established in June 2010. So we are a group of professionals who aims to promote urban design through different discussion, educational or accreditation, or through various of activities, exchange, etc. So we are composed of a mix of professional cross-disciplinaries. We have architects, planners, landscape designers, engineers, etc., etc. They're all working in public or private or even different professional services, consultation, and academia, even property development as well. So we aim to promote, of course, urban design, and also through education outreach with the collaboration with local universities, Hong Kong UNCU, HK, and also through international platforms and conferences to promote a better design for all, especially in Hong Kong and the region. Next slide, please. So currently, we are a small size membership, but increasing rapidly throughout the years of 10, 11 years. We are now almost expanded to 400. Next slide, please. We have also an expanding list of urban design practice, almost 24 in line and more to come. And these are some active corporates in the field that has already been joining the Institute as well. Next slide, please. So yes, indeed, for tonight, why we have this webinar, because we have been very pleasure to have our very first physical activities that conduct in June 12th, Saturday, with great support and with the Harbourfront office, including our founding member, Mr. Vincent JP, Chairman of the Harbourfront Commission, and also Principal Assistant Secretary of the Harbourfront office, Rosaline Zhang. They have joined our tour and be our guide to show us a great effort, the transformation of the Hong Kong waterfront in recent year. So this is a slide that shows that the activity we have, the 2-hour great journey that they brought us through. So now we will show a quick video of from the highlights of that tour, of the tour that guide and host by the Harbourfront office. So despite of towards the end of the tour, there are some dramatic weather conditions, but then it shows nevertheless, it shows the excitement of our members who joined the tour. We have go through the section of the connector, which is the promenade west of the Hong Kong CE Center. And next slide, please. So we have also experienced different new conditions and transformed urban furnitures, and a lot of great activities does happened. So later on, our speakers will also talk about the design and how this transformation were realized throughout by their effort. Next slide, please. So this is also the architectural service department will be later on explain the project that they have done recently in Wan Chai. We also experienced by a first-hand tour. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. And also the design center later will be explained to us, and with URBIS project at the North Point and Wan Chai North. So thank you all for joining us tonight. This is the second part, follow up with the tour that has happened in June with our young members committee and also friends of the Institute. Welcome to follow our social media. Later we will be sharing the link through our secretariat. So now let's go back to our very, very exciting speakers that ahead of us. Kenneth, would you like to introduce our first speakers?
Sure. Thank you very much, Sunnie, for introducing what Hong Kong IUD is doing and also the Young Members Committee. And so now let's jump right to invite our first speaker of the night. For first speaker, we will have Sunnie, who is the Managing Director of the URBIS Limited, and sharing to us with their project about Tsim Sha Tsui Waterfront Revitalization Project at the Avenue of Stars and also the Salisbury Garden. And yeah, as you can see, hello, Sunnie. Are you ready to share your project with us? Sunnie, maybe your mic is still mute. Unmute the mic. Sorry, Sunnie, we cannot hear you at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to press the right button.
No worries, yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Sure, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
and I will just have a very quick introduction. As we all know that as part of the redevelopment of the Victoria Dockside by the New World Development, master plan has been prepared to provide an ambitious and also integrated vision for the revitalization of the Tsim Sha Tsui Waterfront. So we are so happy and honored that we have Sunnie today to share with us the great project. So Sunnie, this is all your time.
Okay, thank you. I know time is quite short tonight, so I'll try and be succinct. In 2012, New World Development appointed URBIS Limited as the executive landscape architect for the New World Centre redevelopment project. To work alongside James Corner, Field Operations, who were appointed as the project leader and design landscape architect, and KPF and Ronald Lewin Partners as the design and executive architects, respectively. There were many other contributors, and the main ones are listed on this slide here. New World's vision right from the start was not just to redevelop their private lot, renamed as Victoria Dockside, but also to reimagine the public realm along the entire TST waterfront, from Star Ferry to Hong Kong, so as to give Hong Kong the world-class waterfront that it deserves. However, for various reasons, mainly political and administrative, the final scope of the public realm elements was limited to Salisbury Garden and Avenue of Stars. And this slide shows all the main components. This aerial shot shows the condition in 2012, before the works. And this one shows how it looked in 2019, when Avenue of Stars opened. There have been a few recent additions and changes, which I will discuss at the end. Public consultation was undertaken early on with the local district council and with a long list of stakeholders, primarily the Hong Kong film industry. And then in 2015, a Hong Kong-wide open public consultation was held with both local residents and with tourists participating. I'll talk first about Salisbury Garden. There were numerous technical constraints in our design, principally the fact that the garden is located above an existing underground shopping mall, which meant firstly that structural loadings were largely predetermined, and secondly that we had to accommodate a number of pop-up houses serving various purposes related to the mall, such as E&M rooms and lifts and fire exits. Main problems with the existing condition of the garden, as shown in the image on the left, were the total lack of visual connection with the harbour and a very inward-looking design layout that ignored the great waterfront location and contained palms and small trees that offered very little shade to the users. So what we did was basically to remove all the visual blockage and improve the overall legibility of the design layout, as shown on the image on the right. We pushed all the pop-up buildings to the east and west edges of the garden and opened up the centre to provide a multi-purpose lawn offering great views to the harbour. Furthermore, the architect's transparent facade design for the new entrance to the mall, illustrated in the images at the bottom there, further enhanced the visual connection between Salisbury Road and the harbour. I think these two images clearly show the huge improvement in visual connectivity from the original condition in the bottom photo to the current condition at the top. The loop path on either side of the lawn provides a direct route from to the harbour from Salisbury Road and draws people forward to the Harbourfront. The central event lawn on either side is the key centerpiece of the whole design. It is gently domed and provides a multi-purpose space for lounging, sunbathing, casual play, picnicking, and photo taking. The lawn is a highly flexible space that people have been using for a variety of purposes during day and night. It is actually a new destination location along the Harbourfront, or at least it was, but more about that later. Another key aspect of the design is the treatment of the houses around the garden perimeter. These are clad with two complementary green wall designs. Firstly, the so-called garden walls that are inspired by the orchid flower and comprise elegantly shaped precast GRC modules that provide a setting for lush planting. And secondly, the green fern walls that provide a simple yet attractive green texture that visually contrasts with the garden walls. The north end of the garden, a welcome water feature is provided to flag up the existence of the garden to passing pedestrians on Salisbury Road. Planting performs several very important functional and aesthetic roles in Salisbury Garden. The trees play a key role in shaping and defining the different spaces within the garden, framing views towards the harbour and providing the shade so vital to the comfort of users in the hot summer months. The shrubs, ground covers, and the garden walls provide the visual interest and detail to enliven the garden by use of flower colour and fragrance, and of leaf form, colour, and texture. Altogether, we managed to retain 19 trees. We transplanted 12 trees. We planted 46 new trees and over 75 different species of shrubs and ground covers so as to promote biodiversity, which I have to say is often sadly lacking in many public open spaces in Hong Kong. The tree species are selected specifically for their ability to provide shade. Around the perimeter of the lawn, there are two major tree groves of Bischoffia and Terminalia trees that provide cool shade for casual seating areas underneath. And that will only increase as the trees grow with time. At the north end of the garden is located the event platform and waterfront steps that are designed to create a focal point and venue for formal and informal performances, as well as a great location to take in the wonderful view of the Hong Kong skyline. Which brings us to the Avenue of Stars. The AOS is about two things, really. First and foremost, it's the fabulous and iconic view to Hong Kong. And secondly, the incorporation of all the features associated with the Hong Kong film industry. Yet despite its dramatic setting and popular appeal, the potential of the waterfront was not fully realized. The old Avenue of Stars was cluttered, lacked amenities, lacked shade, adequate seating, and felt very crowded. So our prime design challenge was to find ways to enhance the user experience and create a world-class stage for the public to do all the different things they wish to do. This photo shows the completed promenade. The Avenue of Stars extends from the Hong Kong Museum of Art in the west to the new movie-themed gallery and cafe in the east, on the site of the former Starbucks. Total length of about half a kilometre. The entire deck was replaced, but retaining the original piles, meaning that we had to stick rigorously to the existing loading restrictions. One other key thing that we had to do was to comply with the protection of the harbour ordinance. This meant that the new deck could not extend 1 millimetre outside the footprint of the old deck. Yet by clever design of the edge balustrade, we were able to increase the usable space from just under 10 metres to over 11.5 metres, an increase of about 18% in usable space. The other major change to the deck was the introduction of undulations that create opportunities for step seating and viewing balconies, which helps to optimize views to the harbour across the entire width of the promenade. The balustrade detail also helps create better visibility of the water when compared with the old design, enabling people to feel closer to the water. The sculptural edges of the parapet comprise overlapping fish scale pieces that conceal LED lights that provide a dramatic ribbon of light when viewed from passing cruise boats and even from the other side of the harbour. Another significant feature was the relocation of the handprints of the film stars from the ground, as in the old design, to the balustrade railing. This is a far more hygienic arrangement and also means that people checking out the handprints are located to the side of the main central pedestrian thoroughfare. To enhance the user experience, QR codes and the handprint plaques link to websites with information on the stars. Also, the 4 existing statues of Anita Moy, Bruce Lee, Macdonald, and the Goddess of Film are also given beautiful new settings that provide enhanced photo opportunities. Seating provision is dramatically increased by a factor of almost 4, and in a variety of different shapes and sizes, which is important because it gives the public choice depending on their individual preferences and whether they're in a large group, just a couple, or a singleton. Shading is also increased about 7-fold by a combination of 4 large iconic shade structures and a number of smaller parasols that can be closed in stormy weather. Large shade structures of climber plants that will increase the shading effect as they grow and thicken up. Greenery provision is also increased by a factor of 3, providing a significant visual softening effect, especially near the seating. One permanent kiosk and a number of mobile carts provide numerous F&B choices, as well as gifts and mementos to take away as a reminder of your visit. And the 4 large trellises are really an elegant and quite a smart design, intended to maximize shade whilst minimizing visual obstruction of the harbour to the neighbouring Intercontinental Hotel. They also contain downlighting, speakers, and misting devices to assist in the cooling effect. Although the loading restrictions prevented the planting of trees in the Avenue of Stars, the trellises actually perform a similar shading function, but in a more streamlined manner. The shrubs, ground covers, and climber planting was chosen carefully to be able to tolerate the harsh seafront environment, and it is thriving. A large number of sustainable design elements were incorporated into the design of both Salisbury Garden and the Avenue of Stars from the outset. And Avenue of Stars is the first project in China to be awarded the site's gold certification. So I'd now like to update you a little bit on some recent changes and additions, and maybe later we can discuss whether we think these are good or not so good. Firstly, the planting is doing really well, but some plant pots have been added on either side of the bench seats along the railing. I think their presence is driven by the fact that at the project handover, the government inspector seemed to be having kittens about the fact that we had a couple of steps leading down to the lower level at these locations. Those little barriers that you see there are for the social distancing during COVID. They erected those to stop people sitting in large groups on the balcony seats. Anyway, whatever the reason, I think the planting looks good, adds to the overall greening effect, and does not block views or access to the balustrade. So overall, I think that's okay. However, I'm not so sure if this is true at Salisbury Garden. Here, the plant pots seem to be multiplying like rabbits, and whilst the greening effect is impressive, I'm not sure that's what is required here. The pots extend from the upper level down to the waterfront and really constrain movement, changing the use of the space from what was originally intended. This photo shows a comparison of what it was like when we opened and what it looks like today. I definitely prefer the upper scenario. Finally, these are photographs I took at the Salisbury Garden lawn in November 2019. Two separate wedding parties, enjoying using the lawn for a photo shoot. I went back a month later, and to my great horror, this is what I saw. The lawn had been almost entirely planted out, with only a small remnant still usable. This is how we intended the lawn to be used. This is most definitely not what we intended, and it is, in my view, a great step backwards. I believe Bruce would have agreed with me, and I hope you do too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandy, for sharing with us such a very exciting project. And I would like to remind the audience as well, we will have a Q&A section and also a small discussion with the speakers after all the speakers have present their project. So stay tuned, and if you have any questions, feel free to raise in the Q&A section. All right, and we will now have a second speaker for sharing another project with us tonight. We would like to now welcome Alan, also director of the URBIS Limited, to share the Wan Chai North and North Point as an alternative design perspective. Let me give a very brief introduction. The presentation will outline the proposals generated by URBIS under private sector as a response to the proposal prepared by the planning department for Wan Chai North and also North Point. And the proposals particularly address some forgotten areas and also the areas that had either degenerated or were of extremely poor environment quality. And also the proposal addressed existing heritage elements included within the study area and how these may be celebrated and also enhanced. The proposal generated by the study were summarized in a series of concept plans and within a presentation which was intended to be submitted to government for their consideration. So, Alan, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready, Kenneth. Thanks for that very good introduction. You've almost done my presentation for me. Thank you.
Sure.
Can you all see my screen?
We'll hand over the stage to you now. So, Alan, please. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, one of the most important things from my perspective is really providing vibrancy along the waterfront and activation, not by introducing series of clutters and ephemeral objects. One of the great things about this client, it was the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club, was that they allowed us carte blanche. Sure, they had an agenda, which was obviously to promote sailing and boating, but as for the majority of ideas, they were ours, but endorsed by the Hong Kong Yacht Club, and then ultimately submitted to the government. So the design initiatives were, as I said, generated by the Hong Kong Yacht Club. We were selected as the consultant in a competitive tender, and they wanted us to generate a whole series of alternative options for the waterfront. And you'll see as I go through the presentation that we did indeed do this. So Obviously, there's a lot of emphasis on the generation of water activities, but the most important thing is that the features that we introduced in the scheme were implementable and readily achievable. So if we go to the government initiatives, absolutely nothing wrong with the broad identification of issues that we went through. Certainly there is a lack of character in the waterfront, and you'll see this from my later slides. I don't have any problems with some of the things that are suggested within the framework suggested by the government, but at the same time, we built upon these just to go that little bit further and to, as Kenneth just said, really to get into some of the forgotten areas. So we divided the area into basically three key design focus areas. You can see that on this screen. So starting with the Hung Hing Road. Now, you might not think this is particularly important, but in fact it is. It's not only the access to the Hong Kong Yacht Club, but it's also the access to the new police, officers club, and of course the waterfront itself. So we looked at various things. There's four major elements here. Obviously, greening, minimize the impact of vehicles, which is important and not unachievable. As Sandy's just been mentioning, optimizing views, very important. And then trying to optimize accessibility by pedestrians. Now, if you look at it now, at the present time, and okay, so these are slightly old, these photographs, but a lot of this is what it's like today. It's a real mess, and it has no character whatsoever. And yet this is actually a fundamental part of Hong Kong adjacent to the waterfront. So the physical context, this summarizes the area. We've got important facilities located here, like a toilet for harbour tunnel workers. There's a turnaround for taxis going to the only LPG fueling station in this area. And there's various accessibility to various other features. So pedestrian vehicle circulation is shown in this drawing. I think that's fairly explanatory. And what we've done is proposed amendments to this. We think that the temporary road arrangement was actually quite good because it actually circulated vehicles in a very sensible way. So we thought that that could go ahead. So looking at it, we adopted a couple of themes. One was the Wan Chai Water Sports Basin theme, because the Wan Chai Basin is a huge opportunity to introduce marine-related activities. Whilst the Hung Hung Road East, you can have a waterfront theme, and I'll show you these areas. You might just look at the bottom photographs there, which shows Kellet Island in the 1950s, which was completely isolated from the mainland. That's changed a little bit. So one of the main things here is an optimal intervention that we suggested was to take away the advertising billboards here and to completely revitalize the area. To assist in promoting a better waterfront for people, we suggested the construction of a noise barrier. Now, I'm not a great fan of noise barriers, but in situations like this, a subtly introduced noise barrier, very much like you've got at Quarry Bay, can be very effective and not very visually intrusive. And certainly it wouldn't have birds flying across it in sort of stencil-like graphics. Removal of the billboard is important. What you get there by the removal of that is a connection for the people walking along Hung Hing Road, but also visual connections for people in the traffic jam going into the Cross Harbour Tunnel. And beyond that, people are living in Causeway Bay. We propose the reprovisioning the footpath into the waterfront overall, where the billboards were, and then to the introduction of quality paving and planting areas. As for the yacht club itself, clearly members and taxis and so on had to get into the yacht club, but it was important to allow people circulating along Hung Hing Road from the waterfront to be able to get along the waterfront and to circulate right down to the typhoon shelter in Causeway Bay, as well as the police officers club. So you had a couple of things here. You had a road platform crossing that you can see some of the featured designs on the right-hand side of this slide and the sort of thematic approaches that you may wish to incorporate. So it was a special paving. That would be both attractive. It would also have the function of slowing down traffic. And then for the eastern side of Hong Kong Road, it was in very poor condition. You've got parking for no real reason at all, just that it's there. So we proposed as an initial step to remove the parking areas, to re-provision the footpath to the northern edge of the site, to create a dedicated path here, and to repave the vehicle circulation area in an interesting way so that it was distinctive and had a good quality. And then ultimately, and this would be really in the hands of the yacht club, to remove the chain link fence adjacent to their property and introduce interpretive panels. And I'll come back to those in a moment. So essentially, in an interim option, we could have a widened footpath along the northern edge of Hong Kong Road, remove the parking spaces, re-provision the footpath, and then have a shared roadway surface just east of the yacht club, which would extend right the way down to towards the police officers club, which would be a shared surface for traffic. Now, there's not a lot of traffic comes along here. There are some that service the yacht club, so there's no reason why a shared surface couldn't actually work. There's just, of course, reticence in government to promote shared surfaces generally. So that's something one would have to overcome. But Hong Kong does have a walkability ambition. So this will be part and parcel of achieving that. And now looking at this, we've called this the Kellett Island Causeway. So you could go even further. So we'd have the causeway, as we've called it, which extends right to the promenade edge adjacent to the Causeway Bay Typhoon Shelter, with elements reflecting the harbour. So you can introduce nautical themes and so on. You can introduce lots of various other elements within the area that can help to create a quality space, and a space that people can actually walk along. And then at the termination of the Kellett Island Causeway, you would have a situation where people would be able to safely look out over the typhoon shelter and enjoy the views along that edge. So that's really, really important. So there's a lot of things there that can help to contribute and create a sense of place and a vibrant waterfront. Now, the elements that we are thinking of is bespoke directional signage and also information signage. You can have the history of the yacht club, you can have the history of the spaces within the area, the evolution of the yacht club from its site, which used to be in North Point, the building still exists, to its present island site. And it's gone through several historic developments. During the Second World War, the Japanese occupied it for various purposes. But nevertheless, you could have a real information provision here that would tell the story of the area and it in itself create a destination. So in summary, these are the major elements. So getting the noise barriers installed, realigning the Hung Hing Road, expanding the waterfront, safe crossings at the yacht club, and then street enhancement, shared space, and traffic calming. Moving on to the Wan Chai Basin, what we're looking at here, and this obviously was clearly in the interests of the yacht club, is establish a world-class water sports and recreation precinct. Now, we don't take best advantage of our waterfronts for water sports activities. They're very limited. We get the occasional event, but why can't we just simply create a feature and a facility that can do that all year round? And that would enhance the vibrancy of the waterfront, because there'll be always something happening there. It's not just planted spaces. It's just not design clutter shoved at the waterfront in an attempt to create interest. It's a destination, which is very, very important. So we have the various destination spaces and circulation spaces. So we're envisaging, you can see in the green line, circulation right to the arm of the former Wan Chai Basin mooring areas, and that would then circulate right round to past the redeveloped police officers club right down into the Causeway Bay Typhoon Shelter. So, and also looking at various issues. If you look at the bottom left-hand side, the former proposals that were in the outline development plan were sought by planning department was to create a waterfront space, yet with disparate commercial retail elements, which didn't seem to have much sense and seem to be carried over. So there was a few things here that we thought would be important to adjust. So you've got these large areas here. So as I say, on the western side, you have a cluster of potential commercial areas and a series of disparate parts. And they're all zoned for different purposes, but generally under a OU banner. So what we proposed was the clustering of the retail come commercial element behind the Wan Chai ferry pier, where it could actually enjoy footfall and perhaps provide some activation, whereas also providing consolidated spaces where water-related activities, exhibitions, and so on could actually take place. Now, there was an ambition in the brief issued by government to get access around the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club. In short, the reasons in the bulleted points there, this is technically infeasible, notwithstanding the implications of the protection of the harbour ordinance. And really, why would you really want to do it? If you improved Hung Hing Road to the standard that we just said, it would be fine. There was no need to walk around here. And apart from that, you would actually affect some remaining parts of natural waterfront that still exist around the former Kellett Island. So what we have looked at is land water access in different ways. So looking at an access ramp to floating pontoons, a temporary floating pontoon, so you could actually get access into the area. You could have vessel moorings for large sailing vessels and a whole series of other things, but we also looked at universal access, which was vitally important. But the emphasis was on the provision of a publicly accessible breakwater at the entrance to the Wan Chai Basin. And then looking at it, so not forgetting the people want to look across the harbour. So what you want are viewing points and really interesting destination spaces that you can go into that are well designed and architecturally well conceived. And that would be in line with the OZP, the elements that we proposed were OZP compliant, no doubt about it. Other elements that we looked at, of course, is when you have a water basin that is actually going to hold events, you need something to support it, and that being a water sports support building. So we designed a building that could readily be accommodated within the provisions of the outline zoning plan without intruding upon its provisions. And this could sit very nicely without intruding upon the waterfront in any way. So pedestrian circulation adjacent to the basin would not be interfered with. And also you'd maintain areas for exhibitions and so on to the northeast and to the west of the facility. And you can have a world-class water recreation precinct. And this can have events going on all year of different sorts. These can be large-scale yachts, they can be tall ships, they can even have dragon boat facilities, assuming we reduce the wave action in the harbour. But you can have great exhibition facilities that people will come to and be excited by, not something you just simply walk through and say, okay, I've been through there and I've done that. So I've listed out here in this slide all the events and the recreation facilities that you could actually hold within the area, if indeed the basin were to be allocated for these purposes. Now, to move on to the water sports. So we came up with a land use budget for these various facilities. There's a lot could take place within its environs and could spill over in areas adjacent to the Wan Chai ferry pier, assuming that the retail elements were sensibly relocated and comprised. And then looking at it, you could have flexible use of space, and you could have multiple events, which is very, very important. You just don't do the same thing all year round. It's an ongoing thing that has to be planned for, it has to be evented, and it has to be continuous. So the overall master plan, that's it in a nutshell. I won't go into this in any detail, but it just shows you the vision for the proposed concept plan for the basin. And finally, moving on to the Causeway Bay Typhoon Shelter, it's a continuous promenade that goes through the area. Now, you'll be all well aware that the promenade at the Typhoon Shelter, particularly adjacent to Gloucester Road, is heavily, heavily constrained. There's very little option for pedestrian circulation. You've got to be pretty irrepressible to get to the noonday gun. So we're looking at what you could do and to optimize circulation, but also to optimize the mooring layout within the typhoon shelter, because Hong Kong has a chronic shortage of moorings. And to optimize the mooring layout, you could actually increase the number of mooring spaces available. So we looked at the current circulation issues. We then went on to look at the physical context and the various constraints. A lot of the spaces are dead. Walls of the fire station and indeed other facilities adjacent to it are now necessarily pushed towards the waterfront, constraining public access, which is rather worrying. And there are neglected areas in the overall area. So again, we're looking at the construction of a noise barrier adjacent to Gloucester Road, very similar to the one we had along the Hong Hing Road, and then the upgrading of existing spaces to improve continuity and the overall quality of the promenade. So one of the major features I've just mentioned is the noonday gun. It's been there for many, many years. It's actually historically been in many, many different locations. So it could well be moved. And we're suggesting it goes to the end of the Wan Chai Basin mooring area, to the protrusion that sticks out into the harbour. So it's not historically definite that it has to be in this location. It's a recent location, so that could easily be moved. So there's a lot of things that could be done. So setback of the police officers' club fence could help to increase the area of waterfront and promenade adjacent to the western side of the Causeway Bay Typhoon Shelter. And then generally speaking, we could upgrade the pavement, landscape and site furnishings along the Typhoon Shelter edges. These are in an appalling condition right now. So some of the ideas we had, one option, as a minimal option, is just simply putting the noise barrier adjacent to the area with a slightly enhanced waterfront. Whereas below that, you'll see a relocated bus lay-by, which would help to provide facilities for the bus station. It'd be very conveniently located to a crossing over Gloucester Road. You can see the existing condition on the middle of this slide, so it shows you the variation. Clearly, the recommended option is probably the optimal option, and it would help to secure a usable promenade that will be people-friendly instead of being people-unfriendly, as the present situation is right now.
Hi, Ellen. Sorry to interrupt. I'm afraid time is.
I'm just about finished. I'm nearly there. Sorry.
Please save some best in the end.
No, I'll whiz through this. I'm nearly finished. Okay. So we've got some existing conditions that are extremely poor, and we aim to improve these. You can see the various suggestions. Then the optimization of the waterfront. I won't go into that in detail as we're running out of time. Then various facilities you could introduce to enhance mooring, including fueling facilities. So that's all good. So as I was saying, Sunnie, I am at the end. These are the summaries of the waterfront. Hung Hing Road improvements, very important. A whole range of facilities could be improved. And then Wan Chai Basin, improvements there, as well as the Causeway Bay Typhoon Shelter. So in overall terms, the master plan. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry I overindulged in my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you of the very, very great concept plans and great strategies to share with us tonight in realization of both Sandy and Ellen from their firm, the realization of Tsim Sha Tsui and Wan Chai Harbourfront. These are great effort and trying out different approaches to revitalize all these forgotten areas with smart design strategy, also people-centric design strategy. Nevertheless, open up accessibility to our precious assets, which is the beautiful waterfront. So next, I'm very delighted to invite Dr. Edmund Lee, the former Executive Director of Hong Kong Design Center, and Ms. Sam Lam, the Director of Business Development and Project of Hong Kong Design Center, to share their recent placemaking project, working with local creatives in bringing a transformative month via their Design District Hong Kong project. The Design District project has been actively engaged the designers and stakeholders to join efforts at various scales to create different placemaking projects. So I'm myself very excited to learn about the process of this project just happened in June, right, Sam? May I offer now over to you, Sam, please.
Thank you so much. Can you all see my slide?
Yes.
Great. And then, thank you for having us, me and Edmund, to talk about how design and creative placemaking transform our city. So I think it's not difficult for you all to understand that rapid growth of city in recent decades continue to pose a significant threat to citizen social well-being. So we think that we can see a trend that urban regeneration has become one of the adaptation in react to this issue. So in our presentation, we will use our recent project Design District Hong Kong, #EDHK, our creative tourism and placemaking project drive by design thinking approach to illustrate creative placemaking as one of the adaptation strategy and enabler to drive a broader agenda for the city growth and transformation, because we believe that the city belongs to all of us. So we would like to open up the chance for more people, not only an architect, designer, urban planner, but our public to actually participate and have a say on it. And then, so what is placemaking? I'm sure the participant actually know about it, so I'm not going, because of the time is quite limited. I'm not talking about that in deep, but generally speaking, creative placemaking integrate arts, culture, and design intervention into effort that strengthen the connection between people and place they share. So it actually inspires people to collectively reimagine and reinvent public space at the heart of every community. For our project, we are a 3-year project. And then this year is actually, we just finished our whole project. So it's finalizing everything. But in brief, we are saying that we are a kind of like an open air design district gallery. So we use Wanjai as our hub to make every corner of the public space as our design gallery. So this is our concept. In the past 3 years, we just like a museum. So every year we have a theme. In brief, in the first year, we talk about the past of Hong Kong. And then the second year, we talk about the contemporary Hong Kong. And in the third year, the final year, our theme is transform. Actually, we talk about the future of our city. And then this is some figure that you can see that in the past 3 years, we have curated over 100 original design and installation, and then we have organized over 150 guided tours in 3 languages, free for public. And also we have actively engaged over 250 creative partners to do this project with us. But you may say that, well, then we have a lot of similar public, art project. What is the difference between public art project or with us, a creative placemaking project? I think the difference lies in our making of. Our strategy is actually like to connect and enhance different public open space and architecture in the district through various modes of community collaboration, social conversation, and participatory design. So which actually intervene cross-disciplinary of original design, traditional craftsmanship, distinct architecture, district characteristic, and unique story. So we engage most of our work actually are the result of co-creation with local stakeholders like the residents, NGOs, school, ethnic minority, and of course the government department, because basically all our work are located at public space. So we, actually work with over 20 government departments or quasi-government cooperation, as well as this district council. So let's go deep into our recent project. I'm trying to go down, but I cannot play. Is it still in the slide with the numbers, right?
Yes.
Okay, cannot go to the next page. I think I need to stop share and do it again.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. I do that. Okay, so our recent exhibition actually span the area span from the typhoon shelter just mentioned by Alan, from typhoon shelter to the Central Harbourfront event. It's quite a large space. Okay. So we would like to, because of the time, actually creative placemaking have a lot of different, can have lots of different angle to talk about, but we, of course, we would like to tie into urban regeneration, especially on the vision for Hong Kong Harbourfront. There are actually, we can see that there are actually 4 attributes. That is the 4 social attributes of a place that can create social opportunity. As we mentioned, that we would like to broaden our agenda to include more public to participate into the discussion of the Harbourfront vision. And then these 4 social opportunity includes diversity of place, inclusiveness of place, value of place, and vitality of place. So social opportunities generally used to refer to the idea that people have different opportunity based on their own social network and the overall environment in which they live. And then, so that will affect their level of social well-being directly. So if they have a high level of these 4 social attributes, then they might have a better, social well-being. And obviously for our exhibition, because we are also a creative tourism project that we need to tie into connecting local history with the present, and then bring cultural influence into the spotlight and creating new tradition. This is what we do. And then our creative curatorial direction for this is actually we put our design installation in strategic location that make the Harbourfront as a gallery. At the same time, we are telling a story about a fire dragon that tied into the typhoon shelter, because you all know that we have the Tai Hang fire dragon as our tradition, and then it's actually like a mimic of fire dragon, embracing the Pearl of the East. So the Pearl of the East, of course, is the Victoria Harbour. And then that's our curatorial. And then for this exhibition, we have over 200,000 visitors that we feel so encouraging. Okay, so this is the kind of the layout that how we actually imagine the Harbourfront as an exhibition venue, because basically the Harbourfront now is like they open section by section due to different phases, but we see this, we don't want to see each of the spaces as individual spaces. You think that the planning and the reimagination shall be as a whole, as a curated concept. So this is how we actually want to help our the citizen to understand what is a Harbourfront, how can we actually imagine it together. So this work, we actually, in collaboration with the Tai Hang Dragonfire Association, and then they make it for us, and then of course with our designer, and then this actually tell the value of place, because it's tied into the history of this typhoon shelter, because after the fire dragon ends, they have a ritual to actually to burn the fire dragon head and then throw it at the typhoon shelter. This in their history. So we have a site specific to start our exhibition. And then secondly is our commission work. It is at the end of our exhibition. So it is a kind of like a floating river that is inspired by Victoria Harbour, and then it's at the central. So you can see how we play with the fire dragon concept as our exhibition. Can you help me to play the video of River of Light? Do I need to stop sharing? Right.
Wind, rivers, time flow all around us. The central band of color running through this artwork represents a river as much as a natural border as it is in Hong Kong, as it is a natural connector. The force of a river is powerful and transforms landscapes over time, which match with the theme of this DDHK exhibition, transform. Transforming a new harbourfront, reimagining the city public spaces. Water brings life, possibility and change, and I really hope that this piece, this art installation, brings the citizens of Hong Kong a sense of peace and calm and an awareness of the natural world all around us.
Thank you, Sherry. Can you see my slide again? Great. And then, yeah, and then the second social attribute that we are looking into is the inclusiveness of a place. That we think River of Light is also a very good illustration on this, because basically our installation is inspired by Victoria Harbour as our inspiration, and it is a kind of like floating on the air. So we open up the space on the ground, so there is nothing there except we have some DD circle. We call it DD circle. It's a kind of like 300. We have over 380 circle-shaped flake grass that for people for social distancing, and then they can enjoy the place. And then so happen for some of the people, they think that it looked like a rainbow, but well, of course, for us, it's not a rainbow, it's a river. But for some of it, they think it is a rainbow. So a lot of the homosexual people, actually, we don't do it intentionally, but we are aware that a lot of homosexual people join our exhibition. So I think it is a very good exhibition that actually attract a lot of different kind of people, citizen, the dogs, and someone will walk the cat, and also we have different foreign people who come to our exhibition. We have people with special needs. They also come to our exhibition. And then for this one is also illustrating inclusiveness of place. This is actually a game, a field game that we put on the floor. It's a very big, the size is very big. And then we do co-creation with the elderly to reimagine the old game that, of course, we want to promote that we shouldn't always look into our cell phone, then how we can actually bring our old game into the contemporary setting that we can play. Cherry, can you play the second video called 維園放小息?
Cherry is working hard to come back from the weekend.
我哋想利用今次嘅作品咧，維港放小息，重新去發掘一啲同空間有關嘅兒時遊戲，鼓勵大家放低一下手機，探索用身體玩遊戲嘅樂趣。我哋尤其咧發現呢類型嘅空間遊戲特別容易打破一啲既有嘅隔膜，容納唔同種類同埋唔同年齡層嘅人一齊活動。咁所以咧，我哋一開始做咗幾場唔同嘅工作坊啦，收集咗一啲關於戰後第一代兒童遊戲嘅口述歷史，從中我哋揀選咗5個唔同嘅遊戲，同一群年輕人做 co-design 嘅工作坊，咁從而 mix and match 去更新咗呢類型嘅遊戲設計同埋規則，貼近當代喜好需求，同時亦都容納到唔同嘅體能需要。咁不如由有份參與設計嘅老友記帶我哋一齊去玩新十字界豆腐啦！
我哋希望日常生活中都可以加入玩嘅元素，就好似上一代嘅小朋友一樣，一塊空地、幾塊石頭，再加3、5個知己，就可以成為一個好好嘅玩樂空間。
今次維港放小息嘅理念咧，就係希望用簡單又美觀嘅設計咧，就係激發大家兒時嘅回憶同埋想玩咁玩嘅創意。咁其實除咗咁靚嘅圖案之外咧，更加重要嘅其實係我哋整個設計過程咯。咁我哋可以叫呢個即係設計過程咧係一個叫做參與式嘅設計嚟嘅。除咗即係我哋設計師去 put 好多 effort 落去做一啲嘅設計之外咧，我哋都好需要咧用以前玩嗰啲遊戲嘅人咧去分享翻佢哋究竟咩遊戲好玩啊，點解咁樣好玩啊，或者一啲遊戲嘅歷史，透過佢哋去分享嘅時候咧，激發到我哋設計師嘅一啲嘅新嘅諗法啦，設計一啲更加好玩同埋更加有趣嘅遊戲。
我哋希望以玩樂聯繫人同埋空間，同時亦都聯繫長幼兩代。
Thank you, Cherry. Okay, can you see my slide again? Okay, I will be quick because I still need to give some time to Edmund. But the third social attribute that is diversity of place. Obviously, it is diversity of place actually provide continuous activity or variety of products or services, and have a mixture of people that allow them to interact with each other. So tumble on to the fun and mingle with other people. So it provides that opportunity. So we have one installation at Victoria Park that actually can illustrate on this. This is our installation that actually we tie into the history of Wan Chai, especially the reclamation of the land. So we have we also have an app to show the story of Wan Chai. And then for the other one is at the water recreation spot that Alan mentioned, that we think that through our design installation, we want to bring our diversity of place. Cherry, can you help me to play the Sky Castle video?
Sky Castle is a dreamy, interactive sound and light installation featuring a cluster of inflatable arches that span a colourful symphony across public space. This Harbourfront location in Hong Kong is a perfect backdrop for the Sky Castle. I hope you enjoy it.
我哋今次咧夥拍澳洲設計團隊 Anus 就將呢個互動裝置星之紅倉咧就帶到嚟香港，然後咧每一行嘅嗰個拱門裏邊就發生唔同嘅燈光啦，聽到唔同嘅聲音，細心聆聽咧，其實咧你會發覺好多聲音咧係嚟自香港唔同嘅角落，包括係電車啦同埋呢個渡輪啦嘅聲音嚟嘅。大家可以透過拱門啦、用眼睛啦、用耳仔啦，甚至心靈，從唔同嘅角度同方式咧去欣賞香港嘅美啦。大家可以試下眯埋對眼，估下啲聲音係嚟自香港咩地方？
好，唔該Cherry。咁我講 the last point 啦。咁係咪大家都睇得返我個 slide 啊？睇唔睇到啊？
睇到。
睇到，好，最尾嗰個 point 咧就係講個 vitality of place 啦。And then I should in English, sorry. And then for this, sorry about it. And then a vital place that consists of multiple activities, stimulating and providing more participatory activity, and has an intensity of crowd that could offer social opportunity to socialize among each other. And then for this slide that you can see, we have a set of design installation actually installed at a place called HKIUD. It's a newly opened public space near the Wan Chai Pier. So it's kind of like a place with some grassland, and then people can do camping there. And we have this installation that can actually help people to generate, they can mingle together, and then also they can have a topic to talk about. And then this is the last one. This work is also at the typhoon shelter that I would like to show a video to end my presentation. Cherry, 唔該。一齊一個人。
保持社交距離已經成為生活嘅日常，大家都想一齊，但又要一個人，聽落好似好矛盾咁。但我哋相信其實兩者係可以並存嘅。我哋希望透過呢一系列嘅亭台式嘅公共家具，睇落一個人，但係其實係一齊坐嘅座位，等大家可以喺銅鑼灣避風塘呢個地方洗滌心靈、靜心思考，同時間又唔會有孤獨嘅感覺。
每件裝置咧都經過我哋精心嘅設計，亦都有唔同嘅功能。大家可以試下靜靜地一個人喺度睇天空，亦都可以去玩氹氹轉、搖搖板，亦都可以一個人做運動。可以一個人，但係又一齊度過一個又一個有趣，一個人但係又一齊嘅一啲時間。
Thank you, 唔該 Cherry. To wrap up my part and then pass to Edmund, is that I actually agree with what Alan just mentioned. When we go to have the site visit of this display, we find it the connectivity is actually very poor, and then we find it so messy. But I think we link it up. We curate kind of like a running trail in our promotional material to try to link up all these places, and we hope to invite our public to understand more about these places too, even though it is not completion, it's not in completion, it's not totally ready for the public, but we would like to make them to participate in an earlier stage so that they can have their voice to voice out. So I'll pass to Edmund on his part.
Okay, now thank you very much, Sam. In the interest of time, I only have one slide, and in fact, a few remarks. Just I guess to echo some of the key essence of the project, and in fact, having listened to Sandy and Alan, the talks about the projects and the master plans and the work did at the Avenue of Star and Salisbury Garden. I think we do have common threads in terms of our good intent and efforts to promote and deliver good design for the Harbourfront and for our city. Now, the reason I actually anchor on this slide is this double diamond method that we use it to promulgate design thinking, and hope more people and more designers and more users of design, the people can embrace that. Now, it's very important, for us, to step up efforts collectively, because we certainly have good designers in our city, to create and deliver good works. But the message, coming from the first part of the talk already highlights, that there are certain elements, maybe that could be deterred, or that could be vetoed by the government, because the administrative needs are very different from the user needs. Now, in fact, when we promote good design in the city, we actually ran many workshops, including with the civil servants, and we know that this is going to be a long journey. It's not going to be a quick fix, and but if more people are able to embrace the double diamond, the mindset, particularly the left one, which is, the ability, to really research deep, actionable insights, and by working with different stakeholders and understanding our place, the environment, the culture a little bit more, then the designer proposition, could be more interesting and more influential. And that's the key part. I think we need more of the city leaders to embrace. And we have no issues about the engagement. I'm sure because of the time, Sam hasn't actually shown you the amount of time that we actually Design Center has invested in stakeholder engagement before we actually go out and do the work. And we create a lot of opportunities to work with many different designers and curators, because this project is not just Design Center. This is about our ability to work closely with our community actors, and even even better with more designers, so that it can be a really great collective piece of work that we deliver for our community. And we call this as part of the design leadership, and we hope that the more administrators and particularly the people with resources, with money, that can embrace the importance of design and can walk the journey together with us. And importantly, to bridge the gap between the business needs and the what the designers see. And this involves a lot of education pitch, that involves a lot of experimental approach, but hopefully with more good work coming out from Alan's, for example, the master plan for the layout for the areas, and of course some of the work that has already been delivered in at the Avenue of Star. And I'm sure that the citizens will start to enjoy more of the beauty of our city, of our Harbourfront. Now, importantly, we Design Center also want to send a message out. We thank Hong Kong IUD for the invitation, and in fact, what Sam actually explained to you is we are not delivering the urban art project. I think there are many art groups that can deliver that, but the design pitch, our design approach means that we really hope that we can curate the experience, and we can piece together the place, people, and purpose together in a holistic fashion, and then we can broadly draw vast area of spaces together into a story, so that the people, when they enjoy the public spaces, they can also better understand some part of the history, some of the community, and they have and better understand the community that we're living in. So that's the difference between the design and art, that particularly Design Center has been working very hard over the past 2 or 3 years, trying to bring out more curated piece of activities and allow us to engage with really diverse community actors and stakeholders and designers and even artists, and so that we can bring the better good. But the rest of the journey, even though Design Center, I think we have walked 20 years, and I'm privileged to have walked half of that journey, and just stepped down as the executive director recently. And I think our design has actually stepped up into the design movement, and we hope that more people will embrace good design. And in fact, through our past few years, and we have stimulated more people, including the resource manager and the decision makers, to understand what good design is and what is design thinking. So hopefully, in the future, more people can appreciate the value of design and give more opportunity to design groups and to deliver the beauty for our community. Thank you very much. And we certainly can talk a lot more about the challenges and opportunity that we face during the Q&A.
Thank you once again, Edmund and Sam. I love all this exciting project brought together, be it a local or international designer. But as Edmund just mentioned, we have to step up the game by collectively embracing all the designer and stakeholders by all these projects. So next, I have the great honor to introduce our special guest of tonight, Ms. Winnie Ho, Director of the Architectural Service Department, to share a few words before she joins her colleagues on the Wan Chai Promenade project sharing. Welcome, Winnie. Over to you.
Thank you, Sunnie. Thank you, Sunnie, and thank you for Hong Kong IUD for this opportunity. This is a very, very good subject, and I'm particularly happy to have presentation by Ellen and Sam, because this is actually what we are trying to do, from concept to reality. And my two colleagues, Denise and Selah, they will tell you how we actually make this space from great concepts that has been presented by Ellen, how to make the waterfront vibrant, what are the potentials. And when these projects are in our hands, actually, I walk along the site. I was up in the convention center. I look at the site and I come back and tell Denise, I said, Denise, this is a world-class site. I'm sure Denise still remember. Yes. This is a world-class site. We have to do a very, very good project. And I want this site to be a happy place with color, with fun for family and inclusiveness. It's not just a waterfront for the business district. It should be a cross-generational space. I'm sure that time I may give them quite some pressure, particularly when I said, this is a world-class site, you have to produce a really good world-class design. And so I'm really very proud of them. They've done a very interesting project, and they will show you some slides. So I'll hand over to Denise first. She will bring you from the Tamer section, and then Selah, she will take you through the Wan Chai section. Denise.
Okay, so the two projects are located at the east and west side of the convention center. They form part of the Victoria Harbour Promenade, which has a total length of 5.5 kilometers and is by far the longest promenade in Hong Kong. The project to the west serves as a connector bridging the landmarks within the district, Tamer and the convention center, while the project to the east acts as a mediator between the dense urban fabric and the harbour. The two projects were approached differently, aiming to achieve the same goal: to provide people-friendly public open spaces, activate the harbourfront, and bring people to the Victoria Harbour. We'll start by introducing the design of the connector, which was open to the public in May. In this project, we do not design to just link up the walking trails. We aim to maximize the leisure space for the public to enjoy and to appreciate the impeccable view of the harbour. We'll start with the master layout plan. The paving along the waterfront was first opened in October 2019, connecting the harbourfront area of Central and Wan Chai for early enjoyment of the public. We then work on the design for the green area shown in the slide. The promenade area is subdivided into 3 different zones. We call it Zone A, B, and C. Given the size and depth of Zone A, it was designed as an active funscape, a children-friendly green space. As the depth of the site decreases along west to east, the nature of the promenade gradually transits from active facilities for children and gathering to a relatively more passive area for leisure and meandering. In between our sites is a viewing deck under construction by CEDD, which will further improve the connectivity between Wan Chai and the harbourfront. So we'll first start with the active funscape, Zone A. For this area, differing from the common children's playgrounds with mainly just fixtures, the funscape approach cultivates a free space for activities by way of the horticulture design and undulating green berms with colorful pipes. With this undulating landform, the berm design itself transforms a green free space into a platform for children to just run around and explore. The eye-catching tunnels by means of painted drainage pipes added excitement and palette to this green canvas. In this photo, the Harbour Office of the Development Bureau collaborated with the Playwright Children's Play Association to offer children an inclusive play experience at this open lawn setting. This collaboration aims at encouraging children to use their imagination to create their own play space and enjoy a creative play journey at the Harbourfront area. The space is equally enjoyable at night. The form topology has gently raised the landscape area, and while seating and resting at the top of the berm, a different perspective towards the Victoria Harbour can be appreciated, unobstructed by the balustrade along the coastline, which were previously constructed by CEDD during the land reclamation project. Between zones A and B is an entrance plaza which provides seating benches of different configurations for different activities. It also serves as an amphitheater for mini functions to take place. In front of the plaza are installations arranged by the Harbour Office, aiming to bring different installations, design, and activities to the promenade at different times to allow more artists and designers to tell the stories of the Victoria Harbour through their works, and also bringing pleasant surprises to citizens and tourists alike. The entrance plaza provides a friendly context for leisure at night as well. A number of sustainable elements have also been introduced in this project, such as the wind-powered and solar-powered lamps along the walkway. Unlike conventional parks and promenades, we have allowed different types of seating to enhance the experience along the promenade. We have also invited an artist to design and fabricate a set of public art seats to integrate with this existing context, made use of trees that fell during the typhoons. Secondly, shading is also an important element in the promenade projects. We have maximized tree planting within the site. Approximately 270 trees were planted to optimize the natural shading within the site. At strategic locations, modular rain shelters are also offered as a dedicated resting spot along the promenade. Same as the berms at the frontscape, the pavilions were slightly raised for the enjoyment of an unobstructed sea view. Last but not least, a specially articulated sunscreen was designed for sun shading at pockets of seating benches. The canopy itself is a featured artwork along the coastline of the harbour. So I'll now pass the time to Selah to share with us the Pierside Precinct project.
Thank you, Denise. Pierside Precinct is connecting Golden Bohemian Square to Wan Chai Ferry Pier. The west portion was opened in March 2021. And then the portion further east will be opened by end of this year. Let me share you a video.
Voice is not working, but we can do some voiceover if you like.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the promenade design aims to enhance the connectivity in the west-east direction, as well as the north-south direction that connects the Wan Chai hinterland to the Wan Chai Ferry Pier. In contrast to active open space as presented by Denise earlier, the Wan Chai promenade in the Pierside precinct focuses on the serene open spaces and with a focus on greenery, openness, and transparency towards the harbor, Victoria Harbour. Victoria Harbour is the heart of the promenade design. We focus on 3 layers, with greenery at the back, connecting passages in the middle, and the harbour in the front. To mediate the greenery and the passage, meandering path was introduced to introduce a passage to connect the greenery and the connecting passage. The public can walk through the landscape area and sit under tree shading, enjoy the play of light and shadow. The public can sit under the pavilion, enjoying the breeze from the Victoria Harbour. And we can sit under the pavilion, enjoying the sea view and towards the Victoria Harbour with our families and friends. Victoria Harbour is the heart of the design. We deliberately frame and capture the harbour view by framing and directional walls. With the frame view, the Wan Chai Ferry Pier and harbour can be interpreted differently. We have designed a pavilion abutting the seawall with transparent balustrade. There you can sit next to the edge of the promenade with the closest distance to the Victoria Harbour. And we can enjoy the sea view from daytime until nighttime. With the use of natural material like timber and metal, and we want to create a serene open space with a focus on the view of the Victoria Harbour. To give the promenade with identity, we introduced some authentic design elements, like the signage in Wan Chai, and also the ferry signature red and blue and white color on Batna. So with the introduction of the Hong Kong and authentic design element, the sitting benches and also the pavilion become the sittable art. And there, the Wan Chai resident can share their own story by evoking the collective memory. We also want to create an inclusive promenade design. So the public can bring their own pets on leash, and we also introduce different kind of sitting, like the sunbathing seats, and also some inclusive pavilion, so we can enjoy the public space with different types of target groups. Lighting is also very important because we want the promenade to be enjoyed 24 hours a day. So we introduce some ambience lighting along the seawall balustrade and also along the promenade underneath the pavilion. So the ambience of the promenade can be changed at nighttime. We want to create a very vibrant promenade space and hope the public and also the visitor can enjoy the Victoria Harbour in this world-class site. Thank you.
And before the park was completed, the Tamer section, Denise has become a young mother and her baby was born. And so I think this is the best gift she has ever given to her baby, and I'm sure she will enjoy the space herself a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the RHSD team, Selah, Denise, and Winnie. Thank you for bringing us this world-class design. What a wonderful series of sharing. Time has passed quickly, isn't it, Kenneth? So now let's welcome our speakers back for the Q&A session. We wish to at least cover a few questions before we have to conclude the night.
Yeah, sure. Maybe before the Q&A section, personally, I would like to have questions to all the speakers from Design Center, URBIS, or HSD as well. And we know that designing all these Harbourfront project or promenade project, they have lots of challenges or even some kind of special factors to consider. One of them is that I would like to ask, like, during your design process or your stakeholder engagement process, are there like any design measures or elements has adopted for some extreme weather? For example, we all know that Hong Kong always got lots of extreme weather like a storm or some typhoon during the summer. Is this kind of safety factors, are they well considered in some or carefully designed in some design elements? And another question is also that we always say, oh, we have a very nice Victoria Harbour as a very good landmark, world-class places for the design. But during your process, is this Victoria Harbour element creating some kind of limitation in your design? So if there's any, we would like you guys to share with us tonight as well. So see, any of you would like to give us some sharing first, maybe? See if Tim from Winnie or from a design center, Edmund or Sam, or even Sandy.
Well, maybe I could try and answer. Your first question was about any special measures adopted to cope with extreme weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think always we do that. In terms of the hard landscape design, particularly on the waterfront, we have to be, aware of the exceptional wind force that we have to withstand. So the design of all the structures goes through a very careful process. And I think this is the same for any project in Hong Kong, no matter whether it's on the waterfront or in the hinterland. In terms of the soft landscaping design, yeah, we incorporated some special measures for the tree groves to incorporate some special underground cell structures so that we could maximize the soil volume for the trees that are in the paved areas to ensure that they have a continuous soil corridor that will strengthen the root growth and hopefully enable them to withstand, the strong winds more successfully. But it is a problem in Hong Kong that we have to deal with these extreme weather events, which sadly are looking like they may become more extreme with climate change in the future. So I think the answer is yes, we always do incorporate that, and it's not just limited to projects on the waterfront, it's everywhere. We do.
Yes.
And for HSD, I hope that this is a very good question. Actually, it deserves another session on designing for extreme weather. And since the two very strong typhoon, Tiangam and Sanzhou, actually HSD has set up a design group on design for resilience. And so it's for extreme weather. It's also for anti-vandalism design. And we have a collection of materials and details. And we have actually done a study on sponge city concepts, and that has been widely adopted in a project in Zhangguanou. If you remember, Zhangguanou, it faces the side of very strong wind, and all the promenade, the paving has been blown up by the wave that hit onto the promenade. So we are working on a new park there, and with a lot of these sponge city concepts. And as Sandy said, the planting choices and all that have a lot of consideration of the extreme weather. So I hope if there is an opportunity, I can ask the other project team to share with you what they are preparing to do in these new parks along the waterfront.
Sure. Thanks, Winnie. And Edmund and Sam, during you guys those installation, I'm quite sure that the extreme weather is a challenge, because if there's a typhoon and things, everything will change. So anything you would like to share to us in your thoughts? And
well, Sam has much experience. I think we've done quite a few of outdoor
weather is
installations.
havoc. Especially for event. But I think I agree with what Sandy just mentioned, and also Winnie. Not only the permanent installation and facility that need to take into a worse weather into account, but also temporary activation and intervention is all the same. So not only related to Harbourfront, but in any open public space. So for temporary installation, for example, for our River of Light, of course, we already take into account, we read about the weather tendency in the past 10 years to decide in which way we set up our installation. And then we have a guide, very detailed guide that in what situation we will make immediate announcement to cancel or to stop our visitor to come into our site. And even if it is like typhoon number 3, we need to take down our installation. We have all these little guide. And also for some of the temporary public furniture that we have at the typhoon shelter area, is actually the material is made by metal, but when we opt for the material, we already take into account the weather in Hong Kong is actually quite hot. Than when you put under the sun for like a few hours already, the thing when you touch it, it's very hot. That is not suitable to sit on, and also not suitable to be use it. Maybe you will burn your hand. So we take all these consideration even when we are doing temporary installation. But of course, another way, because we also need to take into account that if we don't use metal, then we use other things that might come into another problem. So we have some little sign to remind our user that, well, during summertime, it might heat up. So be careful, these kind of, little notes to alert our user. But it's all the same for public space.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you all. And on the other side, as I just mentioned, the questions, it's more about like I would say the physical hardware part, how we do design cleverly or be more precautionary for the extreme weather. But on the other side, as for tonight's theme, we always talk about stakeholder engagement, public engagement in all the projects that all the speakers already shared to us. We would like to ask for sharing about how do you think about nowadays Hong Kong citizens or people during the public engagement process? Are they with a very good mindset or quality, or they are very passive that during your public engagement process during the design? Do you think that Hong Kong people is that very welcome this kind of public engagement process, or something maybe can be more encouraged in the future? Saying encourage more Hong Kong people to be proactive during all this kind of design engagement process. So compare with maybe 10 years ago, and is there people in Hong Kong starting to adopt this kind of a new design process, maybe encouraged by authority, consultant, or even NGO as well? Any experience in when you engaging the public you can share with us tonight?
Yeah, maybe Kenneth, maybe let me give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe give it a shot. I think designer don't just go in, to change things. Okay, it all is all about the narrative is whether we have that power to narrate a future that we can take the crowd to go there, even though it's going to be difficult. Okay, I think design is always about aspiration, is always about motivational. the moment that, you know, even if you run, you know, the design competitions and everything, the document is there, you know, to bring out, you know, the challenge, but importantly, you know, to motivate the design team, you know, to come up with something interesting. Okay, so that's why I think the design methodology is indeed, you know, very important, and it helps, you know, to move the crowd together and build the muscles of empathy. And it's not about, you know, whether I like your ideas or not. By the moment, you know, that you get the whole crowd together and everybody kind of understand each other, you know, the issues, but in a frame that, you know, we are all there, you know, to create a better future for everyone to enjoy. Maybe that will stand a better chance, you know, for you know, the people, you know, to move there. And I'm sure Sandy, you know, Alan doing all these amazing, you know, projects, and even, you know, HKSD, you know, a lot of work, you know, requires public spaces and redesign of existing facilities, and they have, you know, a lot more experience, you know, to share.
Maybe I can say something about public engagement as a government department. I have seen this evolve and change a lot in the past year since I joined the government, and we are still working with a lot of different channels, and it always needs to balance with the resources we have and the time we have. And we all know that public engagement, we need to spend more time and resources reaching out, going out to different organizations. And from the very traditional consultation with district council to more organization and authority like the Harbourfront Commission, they are also very good channels for us to communicate with members, and then the members through their own channels collect views from the public and feedback to us, and when we show the design to them. And for some particular project, recently we actually initiate more in-depth design thinking process, and we actually work with Edmund, and one of it is the public toilet design. And that project, we think that we need to go deeper into various issues, because to do a good public toilet is not just about design, about management, about user habit, about a lot of things. So we have convinced our client to carry out a much longer process with a series of workshops, a lot of activity of engagement, going out, experiencing and collecting information and analyzing. And so for some really worthwhile project, we are willing to spend a longer time on it. And like the Harbourfront Commission for all the past years, they have done a lot through a lot of different activities and some projects and some workshops and forums to collect views. And so I think this is an ever-changing process, and we are still finding out and adapting to new ways to do better. And therefore I treasure occasions like these, where I can listen to a member's view and see what area we can do better, and also learn from a very experienced organization like Design Center. I think they have always done a great job reaching out to the citizens through the very interesting projects.
Thank you, Winnie, and thank you, Edmund.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
A couple of things really. I've been involved in a lot of public consultation on government projects as a consultant, you know, working for government. And often these are two-stage consultations where first of all, you go out and you ask for ideas from the public. And then you go and take these ideas, you work with them, you come up with some concepts, and then you go back again to the public, which in principle, I think is a good way of doing it if you have the time to do that. But I have to say, one of the faults I've found in public consultations I've been involved with is a tendency to dumb everything down to the lowest common denominator and to underestimate the intelligence of the Hong Kong public to consider sophisticated issues. And I would just like to see government having more confidence to go and talk about sophisticated issues and ask the public about these sophisticated issues, and just don't dumb it down all the time. That would be my main concern with public consultation in Hong Kong at the moment. It's just it becomes so simplified that it's almost not worth getting involved in it. And there's a lot of public consultation going on in a huge number of projects all the time. And I really would like to know the level of response that the government gets to all these consultations. I suspect a lot of it will come from lobby groups with specific agendas and interests, which is to be expected, I think. But it would be interesting to hear from the government side, you know, how much the designs are changed as a result of the consultations. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a very complicated process if you really want to do it. Especially there are many channels for voicing out opinions nowadays through the social media, and not just forums as in the old days. You organize a forum, you collect views, but people may not come to the forum, but they will voice a lot of opinions through the social media. So we need a lot more resources to collect and analyze. And for the public toilet design workshops, we are very seriously collecting the views, analyzing, and develop into design guidelines for the future public toilets to follow. But as I said, that really takes quite a lot of time, and also on our staff resources, we need a dedicated team to handle the entire process. So we'll do it when there is very projects that are very special, and our clients also feel the need to go deep into the issues. And I personally, I found that when we go out for the public consultation, we are really sharing our views on design, and we don't sell the design. We will share with the audience the concept, and whenever there are good comments, we are in an ever evolving process, and there is always opportunity to take up good ideas. But if there are really some technical concern and constraints, that is also a very good forum to explain to the public the difficulty. And I think the participants are very rational, and they're willing to understand.
Thank you, Winnie. And we look forward with more exciting project coming in Hong Kong with different kinds of public engagement. And I believe that that will all benefit to the people in Hong Kong and the users as well. Yeah, sure. And thanks so much. Yeah, sure.
Sorry, Kenneth, to supplement on one point. One thing that maybe for HSD, there is always some misunderstanding that HSD is the one to reach out and for public consultation, but it's actually the users. The users are very important to HSD, because we cannot exist by ourselves. We always have a policy bureau and a department to work with. And it all depends on how ready the client is to reach out, and how they think that project needs an in-depth consultation. Some, like I said, the public toilet, they are very, very, very open-minded, and they want to share the process, and they can have the resources for this process. But different clients have different concerns. So we will try our best to be the promoter of such a design thinking process within the government, and we will look for clients to work on various building types.
Yeah, actually,
thank you, Winnie.
Yeah, actually, Sandy's question is very profound. I agree that good designers always need to meet, good project champions. So I guess, quote and unquote, we call this a design movement, so that, hopefully, we get more leaders, across different sectors, to embrace design, so that they can invest a bit more resources and time, so that, the proper research and engagement activities, can be carried out. Only then, also accompanying by all the education, of kids, from young ages, that we can really have a truly sustained culture, that keep the good design going. So Winnie, keep that work, good work going.
Absolutely, I agree. I think you have to have design champions, and the design champions are really the people who are paying for it. Because when I was a young landscape architect training, there was a talk given by an experienced landscape architect, and he was asked, what is the most important thing to create a good design? And he said, a good client. And I didn't understand the answer at the time, but he's absolutely correct. You need, if you're going to realize all the fantastic ideas that you and your team are trying to create, if you don't have somebody who's championing that and is prepared to pay for it and to support it all the way from the start to the finish, then you'll never see these fantastic projects coming to fruition.
Yes.
And it has been a pleasure actually to work on the Victoria Dockside project because of the vision of Adrian Chang.
Yes.
And his vision to create a huge, a totally new look for that project. And to reach out into the public realm and to spend vast amounts of money on the public realm, actually. So that is to be commended. And you need people like Adrian who are championing good design. And he has employed top designers on that project from around the world. And it's evident from the end product that it's a successful approach.
Sure. Yes, I'm very concur with Sandy. Edmund, Winnie, this is a very interesting discussion, and how could we designers can collectively join the effort to radiate the impact of our passions of the city to a more scalar level. So I note that as I'm the host, I'm well aware of time. We're overrun for 30 minutes. I don't want to keep everyone work so late. So I also note that there are starting to have some comments and questions from the chat box. Perhaps some of the discussion just now have already been covered about balancing different conflict of ideas through participatory design is a long process and take a lot of effort even for HSD. And but we are not stopping that. Is not something we will difficult, and we will stop from there. So very pressured and grateful that HSC has taken the lead in recent tendering, have stipulate design thinking as part of the requirement. So hopefully, also don't forget to leverage our institute, such as IUD and also other professional institute and also design center. We are here to help to promote all this effort. So also within the design community, we wish to engage more in this process. So let me conclude this webinar here. Shall we have a great take a group photo?
Yes.
Sure.
Sure, good idea.
So welcome everyone to turn on your camera. We will have a screenshot of all of you. We have listener, audience. So I would say 1, 2, 3, cheers. And then another page of audience. 1, 2, 3, cheers.
That's good.
Okay, thank you all. We wish to see you all at the other webinar. That this is just the first one and not the final one of the year. Will, as Winnie suggests, there's a lot more topics about resilient design or others that we can collaborate and promote, and looking forward to all of your engagement in the next set of talks, and welcome to join our community. And that's it from us. Thank you all, and hope you have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening to you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you for arranging, Sunnie. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you, Sunnie.
Nice to see you again, Winnie.
Yeah, see you.
Cherry would stop the recording, and we will wish to